Sports have the power to inspire us, bore us, or demoralize us, depending on the game. We've all experienced a last-minute score that gets an entire stadium on its feet, or a phenomenal save that keeps your team in the game. But sometimes these emotional moments transcend the sport itself and earn their place in the fabric of pop culture. Today, we're counting down the top 10 greatest moments in sports history. Tracy McGrady entered the NBA straight out of high school and was selected as the 9th overall pick by the Toronto Raptors in the 1997 NBA Draft. Beginning his career as a low-minute player, he gradually improved his role with the team. In 2000, he left the Raptors for the Orlando Magic, where he became one of the league's most prolific scorers and a candidate for the NBA MVP award. The latter years of his career were plagued by injuries, and he was forced to retire early. But for one night in 2004, McGrady was the talk of the league. McGrady's team, the Houston Rockets, were down by 8 points to the San Antonio Spurs with 30 seconds left on the clock. Tracy McGrady was racing down the court with the ball, his eyes focused squarely on the basket and the fate of the game in his hands. There was no way he was going to settle for a tie. McGrady was thinking about making a game-winning three-pointer the whole time. "I wanted to take my chances," McGrady said. "At that point, I felt anything I threw up was going to go in. The rim felt really big, so McGrady let fly with a running three-point shot with 1.7 seconds left, capping a one-man rally in the final minute to send the Houston Rockets to an improbable 81-80 win over San Antonio on Thursday night. McGrady scored 13 points in the final 35 seconds, including 4 difficult threes, to finish with 33 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 steals in a terrific clutch performance. "It was unbelievable," said Spurs coach Greg Popovich. The sleepy-eyed 25-year-old All-Star put on a virtuoso finish that rivaled any of the top last-second efforts in the league record books. The improbable win cemented McGrady as a key clutch player and earned him the number 10 spot on our countdown of the greatest moments in sports history. Though his personal life has been plagued with controversy, Tiger Woods is both one of the most talented and highest-paid golfers of all time. He first reached the #1 position in the world rankings in June 1997, less than a year after turning pro. Throughout the 2000s, Woods was the dominant force in golf. He won the 2000 US Open by a record 15-shot margin. He was the top-ranked golfer in the world from August 1999 to September 2004, and again from June 2005 to October 2010. Maybe the most iconic moment of Tiger Woods' storied career came during the 2005 Masters, when he chipped in on the 16th hole of the final round. Woods was holding a one-stroke lead at the time and eventually won his 4th Masters in a playoff. According to Woods' former caddy, Woods was aiming for a mark the size of a dime and hit it on the fly. At the time, Woods had a one-stroke lead over his playing partner Chris DeMarco, whom Tiger would eventually beat in the playoff. DeMarco had 15 feet for birdie, while Woods had his tee shot on the par 3 into the rough. CBS commentator Lanny Wadkins called it one of the toughest pitches on the entire course and speculated that because of the thicker rough sitting just behind Tiger's ball, he'd have a hard time getting the ball within 15 feet of the hole. There was also the threat of having the ball roll off the green and into the bunker. Woods got the ball up in the air. It landed on the hill, slowly rolled down to the hole, where it rested on the edge for a moment and then fell in for a birdie, causing spectators and commentators alike to lose control. LeBron James is without question one of the greatest basketball players in history. James' NBA accomplishments are extensive and include 4 NBA Most Valuable Player awards, 3 NBA Finals MVP awards, 2 Olympic gold medals, 3 All-Star Game MVP awards, and an NBA scoring title. He is the all-time NBA playoff scoring leader and has amassed 14 NBA All-Star Game appearances. But James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, whom he spent most of his professional career with, were not always champions. In fact, Cleveland had not won a championship in any sport until 2016, when James led the team to an unthinkable victory against the Golden State Warriors after coming back from a 3-1 deficit in the series. The Cavaliers became the first team in NBA history to come back from a 3-1 series deficit to win the NBA Finals. They became the first NBA champion to clinch all their playoff series on the road since the 1999 San Antonio Spurs, as well as the first road team to win a Finals Game 7 since the 1978 Washington Bullets. The Cavaliers won their first championship in franchise history, ending a nearly 52-year pro sports championship drought for the city of Cleveland. LeBron James was named the unanimous Finals MVP, becoming only the 5th player in NBA history to earn the award 3 times or more. He was also the overall leader in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks during the series, a feat that had never been accomplished in an NBA playoff series. Tyronn Lue became the 14th coach to win an NBA championship as a head coach and a player. After 13 years, James had finally brought a championship to the city of Cleveland. That earned him the #8 spot on our countdown. In baseball, the shot heard around the world was a game-winning home run by New York Giants outfielder and third baseman Bobby Thompson off Brooklyn Dodgers pitcher Ralph Branca at the Polo Grounds in New York City on October 3, 1951, to win the National League pennant. Thompson's dramatic 3-run homer came in the 9th inning of the decisive 3rd game of a 3-game playoff for the pennant, in which the Giants trailed 4-2. The game, the first ever televised nationally, was seen by millions of viewers across America and heard on radio by millions more, including thousands of American servicemen stationed in Korea, listening listening on Armed Forces Radio. The classic victory was intensified by the epic crosstown rivalry between the Giants and Dodgers, and by a remarkable string of victories in the last weeks of the regular season by the Giants, who won 37 of their last 44 games to catch the first-place Dodgers and force a playoff series to decide the NL champion. The Giants' late-season rally and 2-1 game playoff victory, capped by Thompson's moment of triumph, are collectively known in baseball lore as the Miracle of Coogan's Bluff, a descriptor coined by the legendary sports columnist Red Smith. The run came in the final moments of the fame and secured not only the Dodgers' victory but also their infamy in sports history. Argentina's World Cup quarterfinal against England and Mexico in 1986 became one of the most famous games in football history thanks to one man, Maradona. He is arguably one of the most talented players ever to grace the game, but one match in particular guaranteed his seat in the football pantheon. There have been few games in World Cup and indeed football history that have left more a lasting impact on the sport than Argentina's victory over England in the 1986 quarterfinals in Mexico City. The match was taken over by the greatest player on the planet at the time, Argentina's captain Diego Maradona. But while Maradona's second goal of the game encapsulated his brilliance perhaps better than any other he scored in his career, his first was an equally perfect example of his ability to create controversy and divide opinion. We're talking, of course, about the hand of God, as Maradona dubbed the opening goal himself, after punching an aerial ball past England goalkeeper Peter Shilton. It was and still is the most astonishing moment in the rivalry between England and Argentina that continues to this day. Maradona was 25 years old and entering the prime of his career when the 1986 World Cup came around. He had broken the world transfer record for the second time by joining Napoli from Barcelona for £6.9 million in 1984. The infamous point came when Maradona skipped past Glenn Hoddle and then squeezed in between two more England players before sliding a pass out to Valdano and making his way into the box. The ball skipped up on Valdano's foot and Hodge wildly hooked it into his own penalty area, where Maradona rose and punched the ball past the onrushing Shilton. The handball could easily have earned Maradona a red card, but instead it won Argentina the game. The rest is history. The date was June 14th of 1998. The setting was Game 6 of the NBA Finals in Utah. The shot was a 17-footer with 5.2 seconds left to give the Bulls an 87-86 lead. The moment was the storybook ending so many Chicago Bulls fans wanted for the greatest of all time. A game-winning shot that gave MJ 45 points and the Bulls a second three-peat and their sixth NBA championship in the 90s. The play went as follows. With the Jazz leading 86-85 with 18.9 seconds to play, Michael Jordan steals the ball from Karl Malone in the post. Jordan then dribbles down court and uses a crossover dribble and a slight shove of Byron Russell to nail a 20-foot jumper for an 87-86 lead with 5.2 seconds left to play. That jumper ended up being the game winner, as the Bulls clinched their third straight title in what at the time was Jordan's final shot. He would later come out of retirement and play for the Washington Wizards from 2001 to 2003. One of the iconic sequences and shots in the illustrious career of Jordan. Not even his stint with the Wizards has overshadowed those final seconds against the Jazz. More than just a shot that ended a dynasty in Chicago, it signaled the end of an era for one of the greatest players in the NBA. It was a nondescript friendly match, trundling along without excitement or incident in front of a miserable Wembley crowd of just over 20,000. England was trying to work forward from the crushing disappointment of not making the 1994 World Cup, and were failing to break down their resolute Colombian opponents. Then out of nowhere came an amazing moment of breathtaking audacity destined to be imitated in school playgrounds, at parks, and replayed on YouTube for years to come. Jamie Redknapp attempted to launch a cross into the Colombian box, but the trajectory was askew, and instead it sailed toward the fuzzy-haired and eccentric figure of René Higuita in the Colombian net, and it was the simplest thing in the world for Higuita to reach out and catch the ball and restart the game. That, however, was not his style. Instead, Higuita dived forward, and with his back arched like a scorpion's tail pre-sting, flicked up both of his heels with perfect timing to clear the ball. Wembley gasped, and millions watching on had a new hero. 2 decades on, and Higuita is still a household name, forever known as the man who invented soccer's scorpion kick. The game fizzled out to a wholly predictable 0-0 draw, yet it would remain in posterity for Higuita's antics. On October 30th, 1974, Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, two of the most powerful boxers in the history of the sport, squared up for the Rumble in the Jungle bout in the city of Kinshasa, in the country now called the Democratic Republic of Congo. At the time, Foreman was considered one of the hardest punchers in the sport, having already knocked out Joe Frazier and Ken Norton, both of whom had given Ali 4 tough battles and won 2 of them. Ali was at the time 32 years old, and had been banned from the sport for 3 years during his prime, and stripped of his boxing title due to his refusal to be drafted to Vietnam. His years out of the game had meant he had lost the speed and reflexes he had shown in his 20s, and few involved in the sport gave the former champion a chance of winning contest. Ali during the fight devised a method which would later become known as the rope-a-dope, where he retreated to the ropes and let Foreman strike at will while covering up, deflecting, and counterpunching. Midway through the fight, a frustrated Foreman had worn himself out in the Kinshasa heat, throwing punches that didn't land squarely or were blocked by Ali. Ali countered more frequently, and in the 8th round used a combination of right crosses to floor an exhausted Foreman to regain the title by knockout. Few thought he could do this, but Muhammad Ali was special, says the Telegraph's boxing correspondent Gareth Davies. This was one of those moments that demonstrated why Muhammad Ali was a game changer, and of course he went on to become a great legend. It was legendary enough to secure the number 3 spot on our countdown. The catch refers to the winning touchdown reception in the 1981 Super Bowl, played between the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco on January 10, 1982. With 58 seconds left in the game and the 49ers facing 3rd and 3, San Francisco wide receiver Dwight Clark made a leaping grab in the back of the end zone to complete a 6-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Joe Montana, enabling the 49ers to defeat the Cowboys 28-27. The catch is widely regarded as one of the most memorable events in NFL history. It came at the end of a 14-play, 83-yard drive engineered by Montana. The game represented the end of the Cowboys' domination in the NFC since the conference's inception in 1970, and the beginning of the 49ers' rise as an NFL dynasty in the 1980s. The game was a watershed in the historic fortunes of both the 49ers and the Cowboys. The 49ers began the 1970s winning 3 consecutive NFC West titles, but spent the remainder of the decade as a losing team. San Francisco went on to win 4 Super Bowls in the 1980s, and made the playoffs 8 out of the next 10 seasons, making the 49ers a dynasty. 49ers quarterback Joe Montana went on to gain a reputation as a clutch performer. The catch remains one of the most iconic moments in sports history, making it number 2 on our countdown. On March 2, 1962, Wilt Chamberlain set the NBA single-game scoring record by tallying 100 points for the Philadelphia Warriors in a 169-147 victory over the New York Knicks. Not 98 points, not 102, but a nice round 100 were scored exclusively by Chamberlain, an imposing record set by the league's most imposing player. Chamberlain was a massive force in the NBA, a player of sizable stature who seemed to overshadow all around him. He was a dominant offensive force, unstoppable on his way to the basket, yet he was also a fine all-around athlete who took pride in developing the all-around skills to compete with players a half-foot shorter. Amazingly, Chamberlain also averaged 48.5 minutes per game, quite a feat when you consider that an NBA game lasts only 48 minutes. The Warriors played a total of 10 overtime periods in 7 games that season, and Chamberlain was on the court for 3,882 out of a possible 3,890 minutes. Of the team's 80 games, he went the distance in a record 79 of them. Of the many points he scored, the 100-point game still stands as the high point of Chamberlain's career.